Okay, good morning guys. Mike here. It's Moldy Monday. This will be video number 2 for me out of a series of I think 5 that I'm going to try to do. We got a nice day here on the BC coast today. It's a little misty out, but it's kind of stopped raining for now. Looks like a high in the, high 50s. No wind, and it's actually pretty nice. So, okay, let's get on with this. As with my other videos, I'm doing these from a perspective of a rookie loader, which is what I am. But the reason I chose this mold to talk about, okay, I'll tell you what it is. It's an RCBS 24-100-FN. It's a steel, 2-cavity, 243 mold, or 6mm mold, some would call it. It casts a 100 grain gas check design, and it's a really nice mold. I was really lucky to get this mold. Now, the topic I wanted to kind of stick with was, if you're going to get into casting, that's great. I mean, it's a fantastic part of the hobby. However, not all molds are as easy to get as others. And 6mm molds are a good example of something that's actually quite a bit harder to get. Now, I went online and I did just a quick little kind of search. I've got most of the bigger mold makers listed right here. There's Accurate, MP, Lee, Arsenal, NOE, RCBS, and Seiko. Now, if a person wants to cast standard 30 caliber bullets for like 300 blackout, 30-30, 308, 30-06, 300 mag, all that stuff, you go to Accurate. They have many molds in stock or in available. MP molds has at least a dozen. Lee, which is your cheapest source of molds, has probably a dozen. Arsenal has more than many. NOE has double times anybody else. They have a huge variety of 30 caliber molds. Now you get down to RCBS and Seiko, and they offer 6 molds each in 30 cal. That gives you a grand total of 130 plus different molds to pick from. And some of those are available from Lee and some of the other more affordable places that make real quality aluminum molds, like Accurate, Arsenal, MP, even though they make brass as well. I mean, their molds are in the middle as far as affordability. RCBS and Seiko are generally pretty big bucks. I'm glad I got this one used. Now, when you go to these companies and you look for a 243 mold for your hunting rifle, or a 6mm, or whatever you want to call it, Accurate doesn't make any. MP doesn't make any. Lee doesn't make any, which wipes out the cheap ones right there. Arsenal only has 2 listed, although I think they can do custom molds. NOE has about 5 different molds advertised. The problem with them is if they're not in stock, you can wait forever, and you will not have any idea how long it will take. You might wait a year or more. And then RCBS and Seiko, they offer 1 mold each, and they're both premium price. So keep that in mind when you're getting into casting. Some molds are going to be harder to get than others, and I'm not talking about old, out of production, collectible vintage molds. I'm talking about, I gotta have a mold, I gotta go buy one somewhere. Now, these molds, I'll give you a little better look at it. If you're going to buy a mold like this used, make sure you get handles with it, because in Canada these handles will cost you $75. In the States, probably $50. These are really, really nice molds to cast with. I only have a little bit of experience with them, but they're, you know, don't think that you can't crank out some good stuff with these, because you can. It already has a pin here to lock the sprue plate cutter to the right tension that you'd prefer, which is really nice. You can modify Lee handles to fit these relatively easily, but look for handles. If you can get them with the mold, that's the way to get them. And it's a 2-cavity mold, as I stated earlier. Give you a little bit of a look at it. It's a gas check design. I'm not sure how well this is going to show up in the camera, but I'll roll in stills if I need to. And I was lucky enough to get this from my local gunsmith in what appeared to be, you know, unused condition. Now, I took the handles off a different mold that I bought at a gun show. So now let's look at some bullets. Now, in my desperation for getting something to load for my 243, you know, hunting rifle, because I didn't have this mold for a long time, I'm really grateful that I got it. And I'm not shooting jacketed bullets at pop cans at 65 cents a piece, because that's what they cost right now where I live. What I ended up doing, and this worked out for me, because I like shooting low velocity, you know, subsonic, low power, lightweight. Specifically, my interest is loading my rifles for small game hunting. So these are actually buckshot pellets that were forced through a number of different Lee bullet sizers until I got the size that I wanted. And I was able to make myself up just a small baggie to test of 48 grain soft lead buckshot pellets. I think these were probably 31 caliber buck when they first started out. Now, these are no good for high velocity, and they didn't come out of that mold, of course. They're just purchased buckshot. And these are the same thing. These are 52 grain soft buckshot, probably made out of 33 cal double aught. So that was at least something for me to shoot while I was looking for a 6mm mold. Now, eventually I did get the mold, of course, and I did put it to use. So let's take a look at the standard fare that would come out of this mold. We'll pull a few out here. And let me get my little scale. Oh, I got some pulled out already. These are supposed to be 100 grain, 24 caliber. 244 is preferable, maybe 245, and they can be sized down. So we'll just take a look and measure a few. They're give you a look at a few here. They're a gas check bullet, powder coated. I think the red got 2 coats because I went too light on the first one and it needed a second coat. Now, there are scrapper bullets in here with veins running through them and stuff like that. And these are cast with clip-on wheel weights that were water quenched after I cast them, and then they were water quenched again after I powder coated them. So I didn't measure the hardness on these, but I'm going to take a wild guess that they're somewhere around 10, 12, maybe 14 at the top end, which ideally is on the low end for the hardness that I should be shooting for you know, a regular high velocity type bullet. So we got 103.9, 103.6, 104.2, that's 0.6 spread, 103.8, just measure a couple more, 103.7, 103.6. Okay, it looks like I was doing a better job stirring the pot that time, and I probably had a hotter lead mix than I have used in the past, which has been a problem. Okay, so that's the standard 100 grainer made of clip-on wheel weights. Now, we like to have a variety of bullets to shoot for our rifles, and that usually means multiple molds, but in this particular case they're not that easy to get, and I'm not paying for a new RCBS or a Seiko. It's not in the budget. So next step up, and I realized these did not need to be powder coated, but I did them anyway for a different reason. I like to color code my loaded ammo according to the intended velocity. Now these are supposed to be 63 grain zinc, which will be easily hard enough as is with no added fillers to the mix or anything. So 63.2, 62.1, oops, 62, 61.5, we're getting about a 1.5 or so, 62.3, oops, oh that'll be light, 61.6, has a bit of a rounded base on that one, so I didn't get a full fill out. Anyway, you know, if you add zinc casting, and keep in mind all your molds, aluminum included, can cast zinc. However, if you do an extensive amount of zinc casting with your aluminum molds, you will wear them out quite a bit quicker. Whereas the steel and the brass molds are going to be able to handle zinc or lead consistently without any issues at all. But by adding zinc, I instantly doubled the capability of what I could produce with this mold. 100 grain and 63 grain. And when I add that to my hobo buckshot pellets that I made, that gives me now 4 projectiles that I can shoot out of that rifle. Now I went full hobo on this thing because I really wanted a variety. So these ones, let's pull a few of them out. I don't know how long the video is getting, but I don't really care. These ones, as you can see, are shorter. And they're powder coated and they're made of lead, and the powder coat is actually flaking off in some areas, and I think that's because I was handling them so much and they weren't perfectly oil free and clean when I did the powder coating. Now what I did was I took a full-sized 104 grain lead bullet and I clamped the gas check end of the bullet in the vise as hard as I could. And then I took a 22 caliber Lee push-through sizer, and I was able to hold the bullet nice and steady on the edge of the vise, clamped in the vise. And then we took the good old-fashioned hacksaw and hacked it off right at the first grease groove. And then I filed them flat. And I realized that does not make a hunting grade bullet at all, but for planking and shooting at pop cans, that should be fine. So we got 77.9, 77.8, 76.5, 77.9, you know, around there, mid 70s. And those are hobo hand cut. And those are also, of course, clip-on wheel weights. Now I went one step further, and because this is such a nice mold because it has 3 grease grooves on it. And the 70, this is 100. Cut it right there by my thumbnail, and that gives you the 75 grainer. And then cut it right there at the next grease groove, and you get 60 grain bullets. And we'll just measure a few of them. Same thing, filed the base flat, 60, 61, 61.6, 59.9, 61 right on. So now, turn that off, get it out of the way. As you can see, with one mold, I was able to get $100 lead, 63 grain zinc, really hard, 75 grain lead, and 60 grain lead. So that's 4 that I can make with the mold, and then without the mold I can actually make these. So I ended up with 6 shootable projectiles from this very nicely made well casting RCBS 24-100-FN 2 cavity steel casting mold. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that for casting Moldy Monday. I'll try me back in about 2 weeks with some thoughts on another mold. Have a great day, everybody. Mike out.